Okay, what's up, Sons of Saban League members? Playing in another league, and the commissioner for that league does a every week preview of all the matchups, and I thought it was pretty fun. So I think I'm going to start doing the same thing. So um, this year so far, we've got two teams that have started out 2-0. Gronky Punch from Bryan Brown and the Wu-Tang Clan from Alex Piola. Frankly, I'm surprised at both of those, but it's a long season. We've got five teams currently, five teams currently at 1-1, and the two 0-2 teams are playing this week. So, without further ado, let's get into the previews. Our first matchup is Luck Her Right in the Percy and the Jalapenos. Andrew Corbin versus myself. Okay. At quarterback, we've got Colin Kaepernick for Corbin and Ben Roethlisberger for me. Got to go Ben Roethlisberger here. He's averaged 24 points a game. Last week had a monster week with 30 points. Seems to have good rapport again this year with Antonio Brown. Whereas Kaepernick, always a threat to run, but just too inconsistent for my taste, especially against a good defense in Glendale against Arizona. I'm going to take Roethlisberger there. Running backs, we've got Le'Veon Bell and Jeremy Hill for Corbin versus Justin Forsett and Dion Lewis for myself. Definitely got to go Corbin on this one. Although Jeremy Hill is starting to lose some carries to Bernard, however you pronounce it. Le'Veon Bell, I think, is still going to be the best running back in the league from here on out. Forsett hasn't done as much as I expected, and Dion Lewis, the jury's still out on him. He's only had 2 games so far. All right, moving on to wide receivers. I like my wide receivers better. We've got Demaryius Thomas and Alshon Jeffrey for Corbin, and Antonio Brown and Dante Moncrief for myself. Really patting myself on the back here for that Dante Moncrief pickup. With T.Y. Hilton injured and Andre Johnson looking old as fuck, I think Moncrief is in line for a lion's share of the catches, and that defense seems to be letting everybody through. So I think they're going to be throwing a lot, and obviously Antonio Brown, number 1 wide receiver in fantasy right now. Demaryius Thomas, he'll get his, but still, you got to wonder about Peyton's noodle arm, and he is the primary deep outside threat, and that's what Peyton seems to be having trouble with. And Alshon Jeffrey, I'm not even sure if he's going to play this week. Tight end, kind of a toss-up. My thoughts are Jordan Reed is getting a lot of targets in Washington, but number 1, Washington has a bad offense, and number 2, it is the Thursday night game, so that's always tough. But then again, Martellus Bennett is going up against an angry Seattle team who just got Cam Chancellor back at Seattle, and so that's not going to be fun. And Jay Cutler maybe or is out, and so he'll be catching passes from Canadian League worthy Jimmy Clausen. All right, at flex, we've got Keenan Allen for Corbin and Joseph Randall for me. Giving the edge to myself. I like Joseph Randall. I think he's got the best offensive line, and I think it's best offensive line in football. And I think it's just a matter of time till he hits pay dirt. Keenan Allen could blow up, could also end up with negative point 0.4 like he did last week. Defense, I'm going to give the edge to Corbin. Panthers going against New Orleans. New Orleans looks terrible. Drew Brees may not play. Not sure. And even if he does, he has a bruised rotator cuff, and his arm's not that strong anyway. Dolphins going up against a resurgent Buffalo team. I just don't know what to think about that. I may make a move there. Kicker, don't care about. It's just random. I think we could get rid of kickers, and I wouldn't be too sad about it. All right. Our second matchup is Team Andrew Luck from James Reinecke and Wu-Tang Clan from Alex Piola. Both of these teams pretty surprising. Wasn't expecting Piola to be 2-0, and was definitely expecting Reinecke to be 0-2. All right. Well, at quarterback, pretty much what everyone thought was going to be the 1 and 2 quarterbacks this year really hasn't turned out to be the case, at least so far. Andrew Luck is the 26th ranked quarterback right now. Aaron Rodgers performing a little better at number 4. I expect that number to rise. Definitely taking Aaron Rodgers at this point, even without Jordy Nelson and a banged up rest of the wide receiver core and Eddie Lacy. He's just looked better than Luck so far this year. I've got Andrew Luck in another league. I'm hoping he works out, but just hasn't done so far. Moving on to running backs. I really don't know what to think. Both of these running back squads are pretty bad. Guess I'll take Reinecke's. Rashad Jennings, pretty much the every down back, except for Shane Vereen, I guess. And Danny Woodhead's a sneaky play. I like the Danny Woodhead play. He is 6th in fantasy running back scoring. C.J. Spiller, I have no faith in. I've had him on my team twice before in the past, and just not good. Chris Johnson, I expect him to, even though he is nominally starting, I expect him to cede some carries to David Johnson. I think he's just too good to keep off the field. Wide receivers, I am going to go with Piola there. Julio Jones, I think, is the number 1. He was my pick for the number 1 receiver in football. Well, either him or Antonio Brown is probably the best receiver in the NFL right now. DeAndre Hopkins is good. I just like Brandon Cooks better than Wheaton at this point. I guess even though Wheaton is averaging more points, I still like Cooks to find the end zone at some point. Tight end, I'm giving the edge to Piola. Travis Kelce over Jimmy Graham. I never thought I'd say that, but Jimmy Graham just has not really been used as much as he should, I feel. Last week, 1 catch for 11 yards. That's not what you expect from Jimmy Graham. Flex, you've got Doug Martin from Reinecke and Amir Abdullah from Piola. I'm gonna go with Abdullah here. I'm gonna go with Abdullah here. With your flex, you're kind of hoping for a high upside kind of guy, and I think Doug Martin's gonna give you about his average 6.6 points a game. Abdullah's the kind that can kind of break a game open, though. Defense, we've got Packers for Reinecke versus the Bills for Piola. I like the Bills. Sorry, Corbin. I think Miami is just Miami. That's all I've got to say about that. Overall, I'm picking Piola to win. I like the line, 11.4. That seems about right, if Reinecke scores that many. Kickers, don't care about. Um, okay. So we're on to the next matchup. We've got Project BJ Rolling Heads, Brian Jaska, versus Tom Brady's Softballs from Richard Crum. All right. I'm surprised that Jaska won last week or put up so many points. Quarterback, definitely got to give the edge to Tom Brady. Or we got Peyton Manning for Jaska and Tom Brady for Richard. Peyton, I can't believe he got 20-something points last week. He has frankly looked horrible. I mean, I could get more zip on some of those outside balls he's throwing. Just got a noodle arm. Tom Brady, on the other hand, has looked nothing short of incredible. He's obviously focused and furious at the NFL and is just torching it. Running backs, we've got LaShawn McCoy and Matt Forte for Jaska versus Jamal Charles and Latavius Murray for Crum. I like Crum's running backs here. I like actually both of his running backs better than both of Jaska's running backs. Forte and McCoy are both questionable. I'd like Forte more than Murray, but with Cutler out, they're gonna whoever it is gonna be keying in on that running game. So edge to Richard there. Wide receivers, we got Emmanuel Sanders and Julian Edelman for Jaska going against Calvin Johnson and Jarvis Landry for Crum. I like Jaska's receivers here. Emmanuel Sanders seems to be the only person that Peyton can force the ball to, since he's usually in the slot. Doesn't require him to make throws, near the numbers or anything. So he's going to get his. Calvin Johnson, just getting older and older. I mean, he's always a threat to score a touchdown, but with Matthew Stafford's ribs being like they are, I'm going to give the edge to Emmanuel Sanders. Edelman is a target hog, whereas Jarvis Landry's playing in Miami where there's just all kinds of mouths to feed. Edelman has looked like a better Wes Welker so far this season. I give the edge to Jaska. Tight end, Heath Miller for Jaska versus Kyle Rudolph for Crum. I like Heath here. He's been getting a lot of red zone looks. I think Jaska told me yesterday the most in football so far. So, yeah, I like Miller. Flex, we've got Brandon Marshall versus Chris Ivory, both some Jets players. All right. Assuming Ivory's ready to play, he did not practice Wednesday. Assuming Ivory's ready to play, this is tough. I like Ivory just because he's a running back and going to be more consistent. And Jets quarterbacks are going to be Jets quarterbacks, and you just got to wonder when that's going to happen. Both averaging about 14 points a game. I like Ivory again, like I said, if he goes. Defense, Patriots for Jaska versus Jacksonville, or Broncos versus Detroit. This is kind of a toss-up. Jacksonville's bad, as usual. But the Patriots don't have Brandon Browner, Darrelle Revis, and I don't know, they just haven't looked as good as usual. Whereas the Broncos have been absolutely ferocious getting after the quarterback, and Matthew Stafford's hurt. So if you held a gun to my head, I'd probably say Broncos defense. Yeah. Don't care about kickers. I'm going against the grain here. I'm picking Crum to win this. I like his defense. I like his running backs, and I like his quarterback. And I just don't think the difference in wide receiver for Jaska is enough to make up the difference. All right. All right, our next matchup, Team Piola, Nicholas Piola, Little Piola, versus Gronky Punch from Bryan Brown. Bryan, you lucky fuck. You lucky motherfucker. Okay, here at quarterback, got an interesting pick. Um, Piola, Little Piola is starting Marcus Mariota. Bryan is starting Russell Wilson. Um, this is tougher than it should be. I gotta go Russell Wilson because he's the proven commodity. But I do think Marcus Mariota could have a good game. I'm actually starting him in one of my other leagues. Indianapolis's defense is depleted. I think that game has potential to be a shootout. We'll just have to see. Whereas I think the Seahawks will thoroughly drub the Bears defense, and I just don't know how much. I just don't know how much he's going to be passing. All right, running backs, we've got AP, Adrian Peterson, and Mark Ingram for Nick, Marshawn Lynch, and Jonathan Stewart for Bryan. And I don't get this. ESPN has the check mark for both running backs going to Bryan, and I don't like that. I'd rather have Adrian Peterson and Mark Ingram all day over Marshawn and Jonathan Stewart. Both Lynch and Stewart are questionable. I mean, Marshawn is going up against a terrible defense, a truly terrible defense, but Adrian Peterson's Adrian Peterson, and got a touchdown vultured from him last week and still scored 16 points. I mean, could have had a crazy week last week. Yeah, I like Nick's running backs a lot more. Wide receivers, we've got Randall Cobb and Amari Cooper for Nick, and Mike Evans and Kendall Wright for Bryan. It's tough again. I take Nick's. I take Nick's wide receivers. Randall Cobb is the top option in a high-powered offense. Mike Evans didn't catch a pass last week, even though he was supposedly healthy. Well, healthy enough to play. Amari has looked like he has great rapport with Derek Carr. Looked really good on that touchdown last week against a really stout defense. I've really got a lot of high hopes for Amari Cooper, and wish I could have gotten him in one of my leagues, but never did. Tight ends, we got Zach Ertz for Piola and Rob Gronkowski for Bryan. I mean, it's obvious. You got to go Gronk. He's one of the best players in the league this year. At flex, we've got Devontae Freeman for Piola and Terrence Williams for Bryan. That's another tough one. Both of these players are kind of second options who have been forced into number one options because of injuries. I like Terrence Williams. I think he provides a lot of upside that Devontae Freeman doesn't, and still not sure how healthy Freeman is. So yeah, I'm going to go Terrence Williams in the flex for Bryan. Seahawks defense for Nick versus the Texans defense for Bryan. I like the Seahawks. I think they're going to feast on what should be a shitty Bears team this year, especially with Cutler out. Tampa Bay's been bad, but they've turned the ball over. Famous Jameis has been turning the ball over a good bit, but they've also been scoring points. So I like the Seahawks, especially getting Cam Chancellor back. I think they're going to destroy Chicago, and I think at least one touchdown is in the books. Kickers, don't care. Um, this is probably the toughest one to call. Mm, I think Bryan goes to 3-0. I hate to say it, but I really think Bryan goes to 3-0. Let's see, Nicholas, if there's anything I would see if there's anything I would change on your team. Um, I like Jordan Matthews. Frankly, I can't believe you're not playing him in your flex position. I mean, I know the last score last week was kind of a fluke in the last couple minutes, but still, averaging 12 points. I just don't know if you can trust Devontae Freeman that much. Um, Otherwise, yeah, depending on Drew Brees' health, I think I'm rolling with what you got out there. All right. All right, the last matchup we have is our two 0-2 teams. Taylor Turmoil in Your Twat from Taylor Watson and Team Nash, obviously James Nash. Two teams that I definitely thought were going to be better than they turned out. All right, jumping right in. This matchup so far is projected to be a tie at 81. Um, Quarterback, we've got Sam Bradford for Taylor Watson going against the Jets, and Matt Ryan for Nash. I like Matt Ryan. Look for him to clean up some of the turnovers. Him and Julio Jones have been damn near unstoppable this week or this year. I look for that position rank to go up significantly for Matt Ryan over the course of the year. Um, Running backs, we've got DeMarco Murray and Alfred Morris for Taylor, and Eddie Lacy and Melvin Gordon for Nash. Uh, Depending on Lacy's health, it really depends on Lacy's health. Because I don't really like DeMarco Murray or Alfred Morris. I mean, I just don't know what's going to happen with Alfred Morris. Matt Jones had a hell of a showing in the last game. Obviously, I think pretty much everybody had to have them on their waiver wire schedule. Um, we'll see. Um, Eddie Lacy had a pretty scary injury. He was my number one draft pick in another league, and I was real happy to see that he avoided the high ankle sprain. So if he's healthy, I like Nash's running backs. Let's see who Nash has on the bench. If not, I guess you move Crowell. I guess you move Crowell up to a starting running back spot from the flex, and then John Brown, I guess, in your flex position. I don't know if that happens. I don't really know what to think about Melvin Gordon. He doesn't seem to be getting the goal line work, which is very strange. Ceding carries to Danny Woodhead, of all people. Yeah, if Lacey's ready to go, I go Nash. If he's not, I go Taylor. Wide receivers, we got Sammy Watkins and Golden Tate for Taylor, going against Odell Beckham and AJ Green for Nash. That's easy. Got to go OBJ and AJ. Sammy Watkins never really panned out. I mean, I know he isn't a bad passing offense, but I thought he would be better than this. Golden Tate, I just traded away. I do like Golden Tate this year. I can't remember the last time Calvin Johnson played a full season, and he has shown himself to be capable when that happens, and still gets a pretty good amount of targets even when he is healthy. So I mean, it's not as bad as it might seem. Um, Tight ends, we've got battle of two people who may or may not play this week. Jordan Cameron for Taylor and um, Jason Witten for Nash. I'm gonna go with Nash just because I don't know if Jordan Cameron's gonna play. Jason Witten's never missed a game, to my knowledge, so yeah, I think he'll probably play. Flex got C.J. Anderson going up against Isaiah Crowell. I have got to say I am thanking God that I do not have to deal with C.J. Anderson anymore. I am selling just about everything about the Broncos offense except perhaps Emmanuel Sanders. The offensive line looks terrible. Peyton's noodle arm looks terrible. C.J. Anderson is battling turf toe. I'm just glad to be rid of that. So I'm going Crowell against a what should be a pretty pitiful Oakland rush defense. Um, Defense, we've got Cardinals versus San Francisco for Taylor, and the Ravens versus Cincinnati. Ravens got torched last week by the Oakland Raiders. And I think Cincinnati has probably about as good, probably better offense than the Raiders do, even though I am higher on the Raiders than I've been in the last 5 years. I still like the Cardinals. I think San Francisco is pitiful. I think Kaepernick's a bad quarterback. I think the Cardinals get after it. I'm playing them in another league, and yeah, I think the Cardinals get it done. Kickers don't care about. I am picking. Yeah, this depends. If Eddie Lacy goes, I'm picking. I'm picking Nash. If he doesn't, I'm picking Taylor. So just keep an eye out on that. And anyway, that's my last. So yeah. So I'm picking, just to recap, I'm picking Alex Piola over Reinecke, uh, Crum over Brian Jaska, Bryan Brown over Nicholas Piola, and conditional on Eddie Lacy playing James Nash over Taylor. I think my matchup is kind of a toss-up. Obviously, I'm going to go with myself. So, anyway, long live the Sons of Saban, and I will see y'all next week.